I'm talking to Mike Sturm, who is the founder of a company called 5 Dynamics. Mike, what does 5 Dynamics do?
5 Dynamics is a tool that people use to be able to understand themselves and how their energy focuses and how their energy moves.
How does that work?
Well, there are 5 dynamics in a cycle of energy. So when you begin a project or you begin a discussion with somebody, the first dynamic is called explore, and you end up exploring for a little bit, and the energy goes there. The next dynamic to complete it is called excite. And when you get to excite, it gives you energy inside, and it gives other people energy to be able to expand and grow and want to go forward. Then the third dynamic is called examine. And after you've explored and are aware and you have energy around your awareness, you then move into examine. And in examine, what happens is you start planning and you start looking at details and you're saying, what do I want to do with this in the future?
Can you give a concrete example of what type of work this would be associated with, just so I can have a more
it's used,
concrete
I'm glad
idea?
to. It's being used in corporations, it's being used in teaming, it's being used in learning. We've developed a process of learning for students that uses them in teams, but they know all their 5 dynamics so that they can complement each other with the strengths of their dynamics. So it really is a tool that says that the whole really is greater than the sum of its parts in terms of how the energy focuses and how you get tasks done and how one can really collaborate and communicate in such a way that trust and self-confidence continues to build and build and build.
So how does this product work? I mean, is it a software program? Is it a course of training?
It's a software program that a person takes the assessment. And if they're on a team, 4 or 5 other people, they all take the assessment. The assessment takes approximately 2 minutes, which is unbelievable. Most people cannot believe it only takes 2 minutes.
So it determines where you fall short of where you need to be?
No, it determines where your energy flows. So there are 5 dynamics, and the other 2 dynamics, by the way, are execute and getting things done. And the last one is called evaluate, which is one of Doug's things. You go back through and you reevaluate how the process went. And if it wasn't feeling successful and satisfied, then you go back over and start it again, but do it differently.
How does the process actually work? Let's say you have a small engineering team and they're working on designing a product from scratch. How do they put it together using 5 Dynamics?
Okay, so the members get together and they look at each other's scores. And then they take what we call look at the team objective, the project objective. And they do another small assessment on what that project objective will be. When that is done, the algorithms that we have translate that into the 5 dynamics, the objectives. And now they take a look at their team and they can see where the strengths of the individuals are and where the strengths of the team are to finish that product, and who will need help in their area, their dynamic. And so some people might have a team, especially engineers, have a very high examine dynamic usually, and they have a very high explore dynamic. What they don't have is usually a high excite dynamic, which gets people up and motivated and feeling and everything else. So they might have problems communicating what it is they really want to do and what the funding that they need to people that give the funding out in such a way that people will get excited about it.
So does that mean that I might have an idea, but if I don't generate enough passion or excitement for it, it'll be harder to sell the idea?
Absolutely. And what this does is, if on that team there isn't somebody there that has a score, that has that high dynamic there, then you might want to consider bringing in another person on that team, or you might want to say, look for the volunteer, and all the other 4 people who are on that team of 5 support that person in an exciting way.
Now, if nobody on the team has that ability, can your training give somebody that ability if they didn't already have it?
No. Can't.
Oh. Well,
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And that's a common question. The outer to this is to look at where you are, not where you want to be.
So it points out where possible problems might be. It defines what possible problems are, but it doesn't necessarily fix them for you. But just knowing what the problem is, once you realize that this is a problem, you might be able to fix it.
Yeah, you can reconfigure the team. You can start finding other ways of helping it, but you can't change the individual. The individual is not written in stone, but rarely do they like to move to a dynamic that they have a stress in.
Well, one problem that often occurs in organizations is around making decisions. Some people have trouble saying yes or no.
Exactly.
Well, I'm the manager, and this employee says this, and this employee says that, and I can't make up my mind. So, I mean, there's five dynamics relate to that.
Five dynamics, then we'll take a look at the execute score of the dynamic and how much energy is in that. The execute aspect of that is usually a person who can make that decision very comfortably. And the whole idea here is how comfortable, how true you are to yourself. So there are four different energy designs that we have with this. You have the five dynamics, and then you have the energy of extreme energy in that dynamic. You have an effortless energy in that dynamic. You have a deliberate energy in that dynamic, and you have a stressful energy in that dynamic. So people have different dynamics with those types of energies. And what happens is that you're putting the team together with people who would be more effortless or more deliberate. You don't want a team with a bunch of stresses in what you're going to need to do.
Now, does this help in the hiring process? For example,
Oh, yeah. It's being used.
It gives you some clues as to what to look for in a new hire.
It's also an onboarding process, that once you hire somebody, how do you move them and what their role will be and what their roles will be today. You don't only have one role anymore. You have 4 or 5 roles. Will your dynamics lend itself to being effortless in those roles?
So everybody has to basically buy into the concept. Everyone in the organization has to know what the dynamics are and be making a conscious effort to apply them?
Yeah, and what happens is you gain a sense of trust of who you are. The one thing that happened with Doug Engelbart with this was that once he read this and once he understood that this is his dynamic and it's his energy, he could be this way and feel comfortable. And once he felt comfortable, then we were able to look at the team and look at the objectives. And a couple people's moved off the team, and we brought in 2 other people that complemented the team for the objectives they made. But inside of Doug, he didn't have to feel like he has to change. That what he needs to do is to continue doing what he does and surround himself with people to complement and to do what he needs to do.
Now, you've created a product called 5 Dynamics, and I understand that people use it all over the world. You've sold it. Who are your main customers? What kind of people or organizations purchase your product?
Okay. There are 2 types of organizations using the product now. One is corporate America, and they're using it for their teaming, for their onboarding, for being able to help people communicate better with each other, and to be able to articulate themselves clear. The second group is in learning, not in education, but in learning. And we've taken the tool and developed a whole learning pattern. Here is where we can help people change.